The following story is inspired by the real historical events surrounding the construction and eventual fall of the Berlin Wall, a barrier that divided a city and its people for 28 years. The argument in the late hours of August 12, 1961, the air in East Berlin was thick with a summer heat that refused to break. Inside a cramped apartment on Friedrichstrasse, Elias and Clara were having the kind of argument only two people who believe they have forever can afford to have. It's just for the weekend, Clara, Elias snapped, shoving a spare shirt into a canvas bag. My brother is sick, and he's alone in the West. I'll be back by Monday morning. Clara stood by the window, her arms crossed. The rumors, Elias. Have you seen the trucks? The soldiers. People are saying something is coming. If you go across that border tonight, what if they don't let you back in? Elias laughed, a sharp, dismissive sound. They aren't going to close the city, Clara. We are one people. Now, stop being dramatic. I'll see you on Monday. He kissed her a quick, impatient brush of lips and stepped out into the night. He walked through Checkpoint Charlie with a casual wave to the guards, disappearing into the neon glow of West Berlin. He didn't know that he had just kissed her for the last time in nearly 3 decades. The awakening at 2:00 a.m. on August 13, the sound of jackhammers began. Elias woke up in his brother's West Berlin flat to a low, rhythmic thumping. He ran to the street. He found hundreds of people standing in their pajamas, staring in horrified silence. Across the street there had been a simple thoroughfare just hours before East German soldiers were unrolling spools of jagged barbed wire. They were tearing up the pavement. By dawn, the anti-fascist protection rampart was a physical reality. Elias ran to the wire. He could see his own apartment building just a few hundred yards away. He screamed Clara's name until his throat raw, but the soldiers pushed him back with the butts of their rifles. On the other side, Clara stood behind her window, pressing her palms against the glass. She watched the concrete blocks being stacked, one on top of the other, higher and higher, until the world of the West and the man she loved was replaced by a gray, windowless wall. The Monday Elias promised would not come for 10,315 days. The years of whispers, their character arcs began in the silence that followed. Elias, once impatient and cynical, became a man of singular, quiet purpose. He stayed in West Berlin, refusing to move away, taking a job in a bakery that overlooked a section of a wall. Every morning at 6:00 a.m., he would stand on a wooden crate and wave a white handkerchief. In the East, Clara became a woman of ironclad patience. She learned the patterns of the gods. She found that if she hung her red quilt over the balcony at exactly 6:05 a.m., Elias would see it. It was their morning prayer silent, "I am still here." As the 1960s bled into the 70s, the wall grew more formidable. The barbed wire became reinforced concrete. The death strip was added, a no-man's land of raked sand, floodlights, and guard dogs. They tried to communicate through smuggled letters, hidden in the linings of coats, or passed through elderly travelers who were still allowed to cross. 1974. Elias: I saw a bird fly over the wall today and wept because it did not need a permit. 1982. Clara: I am graying at the temples. I worry you won't recognize me. But I am still standing on the crate. They were aging on opposite sides of a scar. Their love was no longer a fire, it was a slow-burning coal, kept alive by the sheer refusal to let the state win. The climax, November 9, 1989, the climax of their lives arrived not with a bang, but with a confused press conference. It was a cold Thursday night. News reached the West that the travel restrictions were being lifted immediately. Elias didn't wait for confirmation. He ran. He was 60 years old now, his breath coming in ragged gasps, but he ran with the legs of the young man who had walked away in 1961. He reached the Bornholmer Strasse border crossing. Thousands of people were pressing against the gates, shouting, "Open the gate! Open the gate!" On the eastern side, Clara was swept up in a human tide. She felt the electricity in the air, a mixture of terror and hope, so potent it felt like a physical weight. The guards, confused and without orders, finally stepped back. The gates swung open. The surge of humanity was overwhelming. Elias stood on a concrete barrier, his eyes searching the sea of faces under the harsh orange glow of the streetlights. He saw thousands of strangers crying and embracing, but he saw no Clara. Elias. The voice was older, raspier, but it carried the same cadence as the woman who had warned him all those years ago. He turned. She was struggling through the crowd, a red quilt wrapped around her shoulders like a shawl. The world around them vanished. The decades of concrete, the guard towers, the dogs, and the political speeches fell away. Elias leaped down from the barrier. They collided in the middle of the street, a frantic, sobbing embrace that seemed to hold the weight of 28 lost years. Resolution: the wall didn't just fall that night, it was dismantled by the hands of the people. Elias and Clara stayed at the border until dawn, watching as Maospeched wall woodpeckers attacked the concrete with hammers and chisels. They returned to Clara's apartment. It was exactly as Elias remembered it, though the wallpaper had faded and the air smelled of old dust. Elias sat at the small kitchen table. He reached into his canvas bag, the same one he had carried in 1961, and pulled out a single, stale loaf of bread from his bakery. "I'm back," he said, his voice trembling. "It's Monday morning." Clara sat across from him. She took his hand, now wrinkled and spotted with age, and squeezed it. The conflict that had defined their entire adult lives was over. They had lost their youth, their middle age, and their city to a wall of gray stone. But as the sun rose over a unified Berlin, they realized that the wall had failed. It could divide the earth, but it could never bridge the distance between two hearts that refused to forget.